Hello.
Hey, Vim, how you doing?
1 second. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let me. Share my screen. You see my screen?
Yeah, it's still pixelated, but I'm guessing that will correct itself soon, maybe. Yeah, okay, now.
Sure. Right. My system is still running.
Nice.
Here's Hans. All right. Should we start?
Yep, let's go ahead.
All right. So let's maybe start with release content, right? So yeah, so this, I think I merged. This was the proto thing that you had, Alexander, right?
Yeah.
The other one, I think that is pending is the split, potentially, right? So maybe I can give a little bit of feedback of what I did to see whether we agree or not, right? So I did the split in 3 pieces as per this diagram. So these represents the pot. So I split the API server separate. What is still important is that the API server is having a connection towards the data server for basically dry run, running config, and config blame. And so there is a connection to the data server. At the moment, it is set up for a single data server. And I think I know how to do, or I have a proposal on how to do scale out, but there is more to be done there, so I decided not to use that. So, but right now, the way it's actually figuring out the data server is through a service. So there is a service on the data server, and so the API server uses that in order to connect to it, right? The second part is the controllers, and I split the controllers in actually 2 sections. One was a necessary one for the time being, is that I had to add the schema server, which eventually should sit here, into the local controller. And the reason is because at the moment we have a combined image of the data server, schema server, and cache. And so I had to put it actually here, right? But I think if at some point we will have an image where we split the data server and schema server so it can actually sit here. So basically I feel that eventually it should end up here, right? But I had to put it right now here because of the fact that we have a combined image. Then what I ended up putting the controller local, and that's probably, or some of the controllers local. So it's the same image, but with some configuration parameters, so which I can show you in a bit. So we have all these enable flags, right? So where you can basically turn on and off controllers. So what you see is that the SDC controller image is one and the same, but by configuration, I enable them to be available on this pot or this pot or that pot, right? Also, maybe I think what is also important is that this is a deployment, and this is a stateful set. The reason I did that is because I feel that this is going to be horizontally scaling, depending on the use case that you have and the load that you have. And as such, it will scale out then horizontally by just adding a bunch of replicas. Now, the reason why I think it might be a good proposal to put the controller local is they all have their own informer cache. So they actually run very independently in terms of scale, right? Because what has happened as well is that the controllers to actually transact a config to the data server is all on a per target basis these days, right? So with all the redesigns that we did, if you look to all the controllers that are here, except for subscription is also actually target based. So they're all target based. So in other words, there is a target controller that checks for the health of the data server or data store in the data server. There is this one that creates it. This one recovers the config. This one does, okay, there's a duplication here. And this one does the config. So this one is recovery and this one is actually config. So they are all on a per target basis. So that means that if you scale out, so one of the designs to do scale out is you just add a target label or a controller label towards the target. And by doing that, this design would just ease the scale out without anything else. So we need one controller that basically assigns targets to stateful let's say, pods, right? And by doing so, so this thing will just transact local. The other reason I did it is because this is a long-lived session. So the difference between this session and this session is that actually this is a long-lived gRPC session because we have a watch. It actually, that's also why I wanted to do it local because you have less potentials for failures and stuff like that. But it's up for the so I have by looking at the various desegmentation, I felt that this was a good approach, but happy to have other viewpoints or comments.
So what happens now is that the API server then accepts CRs that you put into the system, and I assume handles the storage of those CRs, and then the SDC controller then watches those resources and emits them to data server then?
Yes, yeah. So this is basically the watch. So if you look here, we have the pub subsystem, right? That sits in between. So in other words, so that's why I said each of these controllers have their own informer cache, right? So they basically, you say to which CRs they are interested in. And by doing so, they get events from every of these updates, right? So that means that if a target changes, this thing will be changed. If a config is changed, this guy will be informed, right? So in other words, the control loop will be triggered by any change that is happening on any of these services. Yeah. So indeed, it's basically the pops up or the watch mechanism and the informer cache that is triggering the change, right? That, for example, also config set is here because the result of a config set is another config CR or multiple config CR, and then so this will be submitted to the API server. The API server stores them locally in BadgerDB, but it also, this guy watches config changes, and then he gets informed when a config gets updated. And by doing so, it triggers the reconcile loop. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. So the nice thing, I did do a reflection of, so I actually rewrote, there was some pieces of code with the target handling that I never liked. So I actually rewrote that finally. So there is more change, but before I did that, I actually almost had to change 0 of the code. So this worked almost out of the box.
Yep.
Which is actually very nice. That was for me a very nice
currently API server is going to be a pod, and then SDC controller and data server are still being co-located for the time being until we scale that out.
Yeah, but my feeling, Hans, is that one of the things that has to happen is actually the schema server should be taken out, right? So it will be another pod, right? So there will be a fourth pod with schema server, I reckon, right? And that means that the schema server the schema controller, sorry, that is at the moment put in this pod will actually be here. The way to do that is just by changing the environment variable, right? So it's just changing the environment variable, it will be here, right? But I feel that even when that happens, right? So let's say horizontally scaling multiple data servers, I would still have the controller local. I would keep it.
Yeah, and then so the SDC controller that's local to the data server in the scale out version would look to certain labels then, or what?
Yeah, so my idea is that a target would be assigned to a data server pod, right? Or I call them right now, I've called them data server controller is how I call them, right?
Yeah.
You see it here. So you basically assign them to one of those pods, and by doing so, this control loop will happen if it sees that there is a change of a resource that is not affecting that pod, it just ignores it.
That makes sense.
So what it means is that if we scale out data server, it would mean that so someone needs to assign the labels to the targets, right, and updates them depending on the availability. The disadvantage is that you have multiple watches, but I don't see a problem there because we scale pretty well there, right?
Yeah.
It's cached, right? These watches should be cached.
Yeah, they are cached. Yeah, so there's a local informer cache here. But what I'm saying is that if you have 100 of these, you have 100 watches from these. But of course, within 100, you can have 100 targets, right? So that's how we scale to 100,000, which is probably exaggerated, but just to give you. But yeah, there is not a watch per target. There is a watch per pod, basically, right? Per resource. If I'm making myself clear. So that is, if you have 10 data server controller pods, there will be 10 watches for each of the resources it is interested in. Right? So if it's 10 resources, it's 10 watches times 10.
And it's currently the discovery component that discovers the devices and then sets the labels accordingly, I would assume.
Yeah, so there needs to be one controller that deals with scale out, right? Whether that's discovery, I don't know. I would do it in a separate one personally, but I haven't really thought it through. But I would.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
I would make another controller that basically assigns labels to targets, to pods, to data server controller pods, basically.
Yeah. So the workflow would be you discover a target, then the target is a resource that's available, and then you have another controller then that watches those targets and then reassigns them. Assigns them or reassigns them to certain data server pods, or
correct, yeah.
Basically just assigns the labels. Yeah.
Yeah, or it can even do a scale out action, right? So it could be that it says, okay, the service, the resources are high, so we even scale out one additional pod, right? And then it assigns to the new one or something. Yeah. So yeah, I think I would basically have a controller that deals with that scale out logic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The alternative is that we put the controller central, right? But then he has to deal with everything. So that's why when I was looking at the options, I was more in favor of the distribution of this controller together with the data server, because of the fact that now we can scale. So if you have lots of configs eventually, right? This guy needs to process things in accordance, right? And so this is a way to actually distribute that computation. Because also, yeah, remember with sensitive config, we didn't, so we have to basically fetch the secrets and map them. So there is some processing to be done. It's not, yeah.
Yep.
We can still put it central as well. So all of this is possible. These are all options, but I felt that it has it has some nice properties right now, with the disadvantage that you have more watches. But I feel it's not a concern.
Yeah, we can see how it scales, but yeah, gut feeling is that it, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, we can, yeah. So I tested actually everything again, right? So this is my setup, right? So everything, I added schemas. So now everything is SDC system, by the way. I removed the SDC from the name. So in the beginning I had SDC dash API server and SDC dash controller and SDC dash data server. But if you're in SDC system, so now by just with autocompletion A, C, and D, you get you are directly to the right pod, right? So I removed that. And then, yeah, so here I was testing things. Yeah. So this is config blame. So these are the more tricky ones. Or the ones that before I had to do some small changes here. So this running config. Dry run should also work. And then I had get configs.
And in the use case where currently, I mean, for dry run and blame config, where you reach out to the data server directly, do you have to figure out which one is the data server to talk to? I mean, currently there is one, so there's only one, so there's no mistake to be made. But when we scale out, I assume there's some lookup happening there as well to figure out which pods to talk to, or
yeah, it would be the same, right? So the label would give you that. So it would so the mechanisms is always the same. So right now what happens in the API server, even today, I fetch the target, right? So what happens when I actually do the logic, except I don't look for the label. I just say if the target is there, I assign it directly to this data server because there is only one. So the logic that needs to be added is to have the lookup of the label. And then that label will be using the DNS name that is for that data server. Or we immediately put the DNS name in the label, right? So we can do that. Or annotation, yeah. But so, yeah, so right now, so I do a target lookup to see whether the target is in ready state, right? If it's not in ready state, it would fail, or it would basically give an error, right? So there is already a lookup on the target at this level.
Yeah. Okay. And does anything change from an installation point of view? It still make artifacts, and then the deployment YAML is generated, I would assume, which we can just apply.
Yes, I didn't change. So I didn't change. The only thing that I didn't. So what I did for. Okay, so I refactor. So there is now 2 deployments, and so here you see. So to enable the schema server and the things is just adding this flag here, right? What I added is I added 2 Docker files. So there is 2 Docker files, but I updated the make file that if you do Docker build or Docker push, you actually build both, right? And but it's still artifacts and manifest, so that hasn't changed. None of that has changed.
Do I need to take a look at their Go release stuff still yet?
Yeah, this one I
yeah.
did not update at the moment. Correct. Yeah, that's the only thing that is, I think, open, but the rest, all the rest, I think should be fine. What is also important is that I updated for the time being this file so there is now 2 images, right? So I call them SDC API server and SDC controller. But you can set that local as well, right? So that is your local file here. But there is an additional image in the keyform. And so we still have to build, customize, and the Helm. I didn't do that at the moment. But yeah. So I think if we can, if we agree that this is a good approach, then we could try to validate this and get this merged as soon as possible. Of course, we have to test it, right? But yeah, I have been able to do everything what I was doing was able to do before. So I tested everything again. I did do some updates in the target handling. It was a little bit all over the place. So I refactored the code. I wanted to do that for a while, but I thought this was now a good time. So all the target handling is now in one place. And before there was a transactor, and there was so this code was all over the place. So I simplified it and refactored that whole code.
Was it for the target or which part? Sorry.
Yeah, all the target handling, and there was a little bit code here, a little bit code there. It was all over the place. So I decided this was on my to-do list for a while, that I wanted to clean this up because I found the code was a little bit messy. And I was able, I did refactor some of this target code.
Okay. And does it now? So one thing that we had some feedback was about error messages and so on with target not ready and this kind of thing, and not entirely being clear why this is the case. Is this something that is also sort of a side effect of the previous setup, and is it a bit clearer now, or is this not really being looked at?
To that, I haven't changed anything because I was under the impression that it was we introduced all the states to actually indicate where the issue is, but so that hasn't changed. So I haven't touched that part at all.
Okay.
So you still have all the different stages of the target to get to the ready state. So that whole process hasn't changed.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I think we need to do some a bit more testing or looking at that. Some of the feedback from the network engineers was that occasionally you would get into a state that you didn't understand. One reason was why you were there, and the second reason was how to get out of it. So it would be sort of
okay.
Maybe Fabian, if you can correct me, but something, you would apply a resource and you would just have this data store not ready or something like this, and as one of the reasons. And I think the target not ready was another one that sometimes I don't remember the steps required to get there, but you get into this target not ready state, and then no config would be applying to that target anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, they just didn't know what to do. For example, when it says the data store not ready, they were like, I don't even know what the data store is, because they know the different custom resources, but since there's no data, like they don't interact ever with the data store, and it says data store not ready, they don't know what to do. So it's a bit, this is the issue. So maybe something like restart this, or maybe this is also something that should not happen and it's just a bug and it shouldn't happen. Then maybe there's another solution, but it's just often the error reporting didn't really help them. Like since they don't have the knowledge of the SDC itself, they didn't know what those error messages meant.
I understand, yeah. But so we can, we probably can, the data store is actually the thing in the data server representing the target, right? So that's what is basically, so it's either, sometimes why is that the case is that the data server crashed, right? Or, and it is recovering, so there is some time, so there is some improvement to be done there. If Marcus is back, it's one of, we probably first have to. I have a bunch of list of to dos, also in the meetup slide. So here I have a bunch of lists, things to do, right? That we have to address, and maybe we have to prioritize them at some point, right? Because there's quite a few things. But one of them is basically, one of the things that I want to do is have like a watch on the data server that is generic, which is not linked to a data store, so that we can immediately see that the data server is alive or not, right? So today I'm trying to figure that out via, but it's not the best way. So there can be some improvements there. But yeah, so data store is actually the target represented in the data server, right? Yeah, but one is explaining what it is, right? And then we can see, okay, what, we can, in the troubleshooting guide that we have, try to add some capabilities. Plus, of course, if we can improve the error handling or the what to do, then we can also look at that, right? But that whole handling hasn't changed. What has changed is the code that was interacting with the data server. There was too many ways that did the same thing, and I just removed a bunch of code that was duplication or doing the same and in somewhere else. So it's more cleanup than new function. There's no new functionality there.
Yeah, okay. No, I mean, maybe it also helps to clear away some potential bugs that could have happened as well if there is sort of multiple ways of doing something. But
for me it was more like if someone would have changed the code, it would have been very difficult for people to understand what the hell was happening. I think that was more the goal for me, is because there was a handler and there was a lot of duplication in my view, and that's what I cleaned up basically. But the whole state machine and all that stuff hasn't changed.
Yeah, okay.
So I think what we have to do is, Hans, I think the first thing we have to do is see whether all the integration tests still work, right? Because first of all, I think the question is there any comments on the way that the split is done, or do you see any issues or anything that you?
The parts that are tied closely to the data server are together.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I think having the schema server eventually moved to some higher level or some more general one makes sense, because I think that it's not going to be too demanding, the requests on it. I don't think you could really flood it, as in how much the schema server should be scaled out, right?
We have to test, of course. We have to test that a little bit, right? But I would put it in a dedicated pot at the end of the day. Now, at the moment, I think we have to put it here at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think because I was listing here all the stuff that we had to do on data server, I think even splitting it is not a high priority. I forgot to add it even. I was just going through all the issues that we have, or all the things that have to be done on the data server, right? So I think maybe this list is not even complete, but I just did a brain dump for myself, right? I think the highest priority is going to be this, right?
Yeah, when it comes across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then this is a PR that Hans has tested, so that's the other thing, right? And I don't know whether we discussed this one, is that Alexander, I think you made a comment at some point, and that's because you remember with the revertive and non-revertive behavior, we had a call, I think it was internal with Marcus and Hans, and so we still have some issues with non-revertive flag in some of the tests. And what it turns out that if we send the revertive and non-revertive flag to the data server, all the logic can be handled locally in the data server, which is something I think you preferred for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another change that we want to do as soon as possible, because that one simplifies a lot, but also makes it more robust, right? So that's that. Then Marcus was looking at some memory optimizations, probably maybe not the highest priority at the moment, right? We should prioritize these in Marcus, or we can already prioritize right now. Maybe I'll put that lower at the moment. Then we have, and here again, so we had this issue with identity ref plus model prefix. We had the user-defined order. We had Yang actions you put, I think, Alex, right?
Yeah, netconf actions.
And netconf actions, sorry. We have sensitive data, right?
Yeah.
We have that watch. This is for the keep alive, I think we should do, and then the split. So these are, maybe that is more, right? So I just was adding the items here. Are there others that people are aware of that we should add? Of course, this list can change, right? I was just listing this to say, okay, what are all the things that needs to happen? So you see, I think my idea was, okay, these are my idea was to sort it in terms of priority. You'll immediately see that probably this isn't going to happen soon, right? Because of the other stuff.
Yeah, but that's fine, I think.
Yeah, correct. It's fine. Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, there is a whole bucket list of things that has to happen on the data server to make it better, right? Yeah. Okay. And then what else did we have on the list? Is that is Gurgly on the call?
He said he had to leave.
Okay.
He was, but yeah, he left.
Okay. Okay. No worries. Yeah. Okay. And then we have, I think, Hans, you actually did this one, right? This was done, right?
Yeah, so the integration tests refactoring is done, and that sits in a separate PR now in the integration testing repo. Yeah, Alexander, if you could have a look, or if you have some spare cycles to review that PR and give any feedback, that would be nice. I think next week when Marcus is back, I'll definitely schedule a call to go over it So if you want to be included in that one where I explain the changes in integration testing, yeah, if you're interested, I can add you and we can discuss this.
Yeah, that would be good. I am going to be on medical leave from Wednesday for a week, probably, or a bit under a week. So if it's sort of mid-week next week, then I would be able to join. Otherwise,
Yeah,
but
I'll try. I'll try and schedule something for Monday or Tuesday then.
Yeah. I might or
and-
might not be able to join, but that's fine. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking, Hans, if should we try to merge this PR as SOP, because the split will also have an effect on the integration test, right? Or do you want to separate them, or because my view,
Which one?
the current
config
one
server
that you
PR,
have,
right?
yes, yeah, they have.
So are you talking about your PR or the integration testing PR?
Initially, the integration test PR, because my assumption is that if we merge if we tend to get the splits in of the config server,
yeah,
you also have to update integration tests, right, to be able to test them.
Yes, but yeah, I didn't pick your PR up yet, so I don't know how much impact it's gonna have on integration testing yet.
So for me, from the outside world, the functionality hasn't changed. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, what is changed is I don't know what you do with respect to checking pods and statuses and all that stuff, right?
But not. So what I do is in the first step I install the whole deployment on a kind cluster. So I am assuming that the generated deployment file, okay, it changes, but I just apply that. And then I apply target sync profiles and schemas and whatnot. And then I do check the resources for them to become ready. So I don't proceed to the next step until the schema is ready or the target has been set to a ready state. So I'm assuming that's also not changing.
Correct. Nothing has changed from that perspective. The only thing
So
that's changed is that which pod do what is the difference. But from you just look at the CRs and stuff like that, there shouldn't be a change.
Yeah. So I think from integration testing as such, there shouldn't be too much change or any change at all. I do think from a build perspective, where we built the containers, that I might have to look into it to be able to generate a valid release. So, but other than that, I think we should be fine. But yeah, I'll look into it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was planning on not merging the integration testing yet this week because I first wanted to discuss with you guys on what I did before.
No, I see. Yeah, they are. But I thought they were dependent, but they are not, it seems.
No. Yeah. Correct.
Unless you do SDC system.
Yeah, SDC system I haven't really tested yet, so perhaps I'll do a couple of test runs there. But then again, it's just a namespace change. It shouldn't.
But even normally the SDC system is only relevant for the pods. If you don't check the pods, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think in integration testing, I'm checking the namespace as well. But okay, it's a few references in the variables that I have to change them. But okay, yeah, we can look into that. I don't expect it to be a big thing.
Okay. Yeah, the rest is the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought there was a higher dependency, but it seems not so much because if you want to merge it, you need to test them, right? So that's where the dependency is.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll do a couple of test runs in the old integration testing and also in the new. So I already know what's gonna. I don't expect anything to break, but okay, we'll see. I'll pick it up. Yeah, later today and start testing.
Yeah. Okay. Then, yeah, conf D is still open, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Talos
Yeah,
is
so
open. Right?
I got the notes from Alexander, so I'll try to look into it this week to integrate conf D into the integration testing pipeline as well. So my current train of thought is that I will create like a private repo to build the conv containers, and then I can reference those in integration testing to have a conv target in there as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Talos is also open, I think, right?
Yeah.
But
no
I think
progress
do
yet.
first a split, maybe Hans, right? First a split and then conf D, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
All right. And I think then the other thing is that, yeah, I had a discussion with Ashan, so we can add Telstra, but Gurgly, I will ping Gurgly separately. Also, I added a roadmap for the CNCF. I saw that you had a comment, Alexander. I just put something very broad, but just to have something. But
Yeah.
if there is things that we want to add, I'm okay adding. I just put something. I just put my thoughts together to have something, rather than nothing, right?
Yeah, no, I just think the actions would be a good point because that's also something that could
And
be.
should we put that first half or second half?
It depends a little bit on this priority order that we have above on this page, right?
Where does it sit in the priorities here, or is that right? Because we also had, for example, user-defined order is another one, I think, right? That you guys raised.
Yeah. So this one, I think that there are some workarounds for the most part.
Okay.
At least for us. I don't know if that's something that we can say is for everything, but this is meaning that SDC breaks a little bit the Yang definition, right? So because we don't support this user-defined order.
But so that's also a discussion I wanted to have, is that we could do something similar to the sensitive data, where we basically add that as a method, as a flag somewhere, and that basically defines the order.
So this should be part of the Yang model, actually.
Yes, correct. But so the problem that we have is that the model has it, right? But the problem is that how do we convey this information in the config blob, right? My challenge is I don't see how the config blob can have this data unless we do some very specific syntax. So I was thinking similar to the sensitive data, what we could do is basically have somewhere a list of paths where you say priority, right? And you use that as the input so we give it to the data server, and data server then sees it and then can convey it in specific Yang. You see what I'm saying?
Do we not have this sort of already there with the different priorities for config intent?
Yes, unless you want more granularity, right?
Yeah, of course. Maybe it makes sense to start simple.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if that does the job, I rather not change. If we can do it with what we have, all the better, right?
But yeah, I agree. It's a conversation we should have.
Yeah.
Maybe also with Marcus there, because he also.
Yeah, correct. Maybe we can do it. I had a brief. He introduced the issue with me, and then I said, okay. My thought was to add this container with some priorities and stuff like that. So, but if we can even if we can use the existing containers, even better, right? Yeah. But yeah, so this is probably a word conversation once we have it there. But yeah, so I think the question is, where does it sit in terms of, it probably sits in this, is sensitive data more urgent than netconf actions?
I think so.
That's also my view. Yeah. So this probably goes Yang 1.1. We have an issue with some models that doesn't work with our stuff at the moment. And that's because of the way that the loading of the modules are happening. So this is actually, so the initial issue we have is module loading is an issue. For example, Arista doesn't work, I think, with us at the moment. And the reason is that you have two paths or two modules with the same namespace. And so we need to prioritize one for the other, and there needs to be a generic infrastructure to do that. There's probably more in Yang 1.1, but this is, I think, the most urgent one that to tackle. And then the identity ref, that's also a Yang 1.1 bug, actually, I think, or a Yang 1.1 issue. But I think it's less urgent. Would this be fair to put it here from your perspectives?
For me, yes, I think so.
So
I
then,
think there's some work done on this memory optimization as well. That's already been done.
yeah, I don't know where he is at and whether it's merged or not. And yeah, maybe we should probably put that here somewhere, right?
Because I think that's also something that's important.
Yeah,
especially to grow the number of devices on board at the same.
I agree. Yeah. So you'll see here, it's going to be borderline, right? It depends on, of course, what you can.
I think that it can go into the following.
I rather put the buckets in a place where you are sure, and I always over deliver instead of under deliver or try to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the overall theme we have. But of course, we should try to do it sooner than later, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I will add that, and then I will do that right now. I think we probably have to merge this somehow. Again, I think the roadmap is a living place thing, right? So we can change it.
Yeah, definitely.
Along the way. So for me, this is not set in stone by no means, right? And we can always change it. All right. Anything else from someone?
Nope.
If not, then we can take some time back. So this week will be mainly the splits, I think. Yeah, if people can try it out, I think the PR by itself, I think stands, right? So you should be able to test it locally.
And we can do this with the resources the Kubernetes manifests are packaged with it, right? So we don't have to.
Yes. Yeah, so the thing that you have to do is you have to build the config server local. So you have to adapt this to your environment, right? Because you probably build it yourself, right? Right. So this environment variable, you have to, because you have to put, unless, so the Go releaser is at the moment not up to date, but that's mainly for real builds, right? So if you build local, like if you do Docker push, right? Like make Docker push or make Docker build, what you have to do is set these, is your registry, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Towards, sorry, where is it again? This one, the registry you have to put to your local environment, then you should be able to build the whole thing.
Okay, and this builds then what, 2 different images, right?
Yes, so there will be I hard-coded the names for now. I think it's SDC SDC API server and SDC controller. You see here?
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Those are the 2 things. And then what you have to do is put this input variable, you change the names to the local ones, and then do make artifact, and then you should have in the out directory, it basically generates the artifacts for you.
Just one question, Alex. You were on medical leave until Wednesday or starting from Wednesday next week?
From this Wednesday until early next week. Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
So you'll be back somewhere Wednesday next week. You'll be back.
Probably Tuesday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, I might not be able to talk so much because it will be a dental operation.
Yeah. No, but I thought you were still in the office the first half of the week, but it seems like it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
then I'll schedule something for the second half of the weekend next week.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, if it needs to be done earlier and you can't find a time when it works with me, then just go ahead. But
Well, no worries. I can even schedule 2 times, right? Like I can already have a discussion with Marcus, and if you have feedback, then I can already embed that, and then we'll just talk a second time. Then that's not a big deal.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sounds good.
All right, yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I want to tackle once, if we have the split done, I think we are behind on the config server with respect to the dependabot. So I wanted to, but I said, okay, let's first try to get this in, and then I'm going to do the dependabot PR. Right, because there's a bunch of, we are a bit behind in updating the API servers and all that stuff, yeah. So that's the next one that I want to tackle on config server. And then I think, Alexander, I think the logging we can also start doing on config server, right?
Yeah, that's ready. You can just reuse the same library, the logger library. That's part of the SDC.
Data server. Yeah. Yeah, and that so basically my goal is that from the moment we do the split, my idea is to add the logger and the dependabot dependencies on config server. There's a lot of stuff pending there. Yeah. All right, cool. If there's nothing else, we can call it a meeting. Thank you all. And yeah, if there's something, let us know. We can discuss. Have a good week.
Cheers.
Cheers, bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.